What's going on, guys? Don with Life After Serving. Today we're talking on mental health and specifically around PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, and or stress in general, and some of the thoughts out there as far as how you can potentially reduce or make it better. I've got an article up here from the National Library. I will make sure the link to the article is in the description of the full YouTube video. And so essentially what they were hypothesizing with this study was that if they could get veterans specifically on this outdoors and enjoying outdoor activity and recreation with peers that are having similar experiences in life, they could potentially reduce the PTSD. So I'm going to read off some of the information about the study, and then we'll go from there. But essentially, what it was is they believed that there would be some therapeutic potential to outdoor recreation for military veterans experiencing PTSD. With that said, these people that were selected, it was 30 in total, 25 men, 30 women. Average age was mid-30s to 40s. It was 25 men, 5 women. And from that, their goal was to present studies to provide formal evaluation and potential impact of brief outdoor activity experience amongst military veterans who were not currently receiving any type of psychological therapy. So they wanted to be able to determine if it actually came from the outdoor experience or from not. They didn't want the psychological therapy to throw in a variable that they couldn't determine. So it was anyone that was not currently receiving therapy. That said, reading through this article and others, they did mention that it's roughly anywhere between 5 to 20%, what I saw from a couple different articles, of veterans that are diagnosed with PTSD, and of that, they typically see somewhere in the neighborhood of 30 to 40% that will eventually reach out to get some type of therapy or help. That said, there's roughly 20 million veterans at the time of the article in the U.S., and most results showed that it took upwards of 12 years before any veterans were reaching out for help. I can tell you it was 6 years for me. Definitely waited too long, and it does mention in the articles that oftentimes it is from something happening in life, whether it be job issues, family issues, divorce, etc. That is usually the breaking point that then the veteran seeks help. So if I can put anything out there, I can tell you, don't wait until it's too late. I had some of those experiences before I reached for help. Some of the difficulties with seeking that help is A, getting in, and B, finding somebody that's relatable and not just a doc asking questions on how you feel and woo-saw guru type stuff. And if you start rattling off acronyms, do they understand what you're talking about? I have mentioned in other videos that there are programs out there where the therapists sometimes you can figure out or reach out. There are programs where they are prior military that are now therapists. So take that into consideration. If you're reaching out, looking out there, typically you can search your area and specific to veteran or first responder therapy. Okay, so with that said, I want to kind of come back in here to the article. But they wanted to see if there was a potential clinical usefulness for PTSD with the outdoors and having veterans and the peers amongst them. The hypothesis was that the veterans, or I should say the study, and in line with hypothesis, veterans showed a clear and sustained improvement systematically to PTSD, depression, anxiety, stress consequences, and in the experience. The second experiment measured post-traumatic growth along with social adjustment. Both were found to improve with the intervention. Experiment 2 provided important evidence that particularly the participants were randomly allocated to the therapeutic recreation. So they were thrown into it, essentially is what that's saying, randomly, because there was another study where they waitlisted and wanted to see what that would do, and if they randomly did it, there was better outcomes than the waitlist. So the other thing that it mentions in here is that they were putting them into outdoor recreational activities near their house at low cost, low to no cost, on purpose, so that if it was near them, they could then potentially take it upon themselves afterwards to go out and seek the outdoors recreation on their own, obviously, and or with others from the group if they were local to the area, and continue to see the benefits of that. One thing mentioned in here was that after they completed the event, they did recommend that the military members, veterans, put together a Facebook group to stay in touch with one another, and so that was mentioned. Another thing that obviously we have done is we're putting together, or have, the Life After Serving Facebook group, with the intent that only if you're a first responder, veteran, military, someone seeking that transition out of the service, that you can be in that group, and again, among peers, talk to each other with things going on. So they did study them 2 weeks prior, 2 weeks after, and then they did follow up 4 months after the event for subjected additional analysis of what had come of the event. Okay, so it was small groups. That's another thing that it mentions, is the trainers or professionals that were providing fishing, angling, and horseback riding, as well as they had birds and some other falconry type stuff they mentioned, 2 to 1 as far as veterans to professionals, so a small group. And they did communal food preparation, so they were grilling out, having drinks amongst each other, able to socialize, interact, build kind of that bond amongst each other, as well as see what commonalities each and others had. So the outdoor activity and experience of this type of activity was not necessarily a critical factor for results obtained. Active intervention elements appear to be those held in common, namely professional instructor in outdoor recreation activity and company of peers. So it did not have to necessarily be fishing, did not have to be horseback riding, etc. It just needed to be outdoors, it needed to be among peers, and it needed to have some professionals teaching them. So you know, they're saying that you could obviously go out and do other things such as hunting, fishing on a stock lake, and other outdoor activities among peers. Another thing that you know, I'm looking at is providing some outdoor activities here to veterans on our property. We've got acreage here in southeastern Wisconsin. Vehicles, cars, that's another connection point of outdoor activities that I've had with other veterans, and potentially looking at doing something with that as well. But I will provide the link to this in the YouTube description video. Let you look it up, but it does have the actual data points. So those of you that like to look into the data, see the testing, the results, and what they came out of it, they've got the graphs, the information of who was part of it, and what the outcomes and what they intend to do further with additional testing. So they do already have some additional scheduled tests from this. So, you know, we'll continue to do different articles, different things on mental health, around mental health in general, not just PTSD, not just around veterans. It'll be across the board. I think it's important to kind of talk on the topic because it is something that is not had a lot of attention in the past. And it is definitely something that if you need something, reach out. We've obviously got the social media handles for Life After Serving. and then got the email address lifeafterserving@gmail. Reach out to any of those if you need anything. If you've got any questions, concerns, want to talk to somebody, whatever, reach out to those. And whether it's me or somebody else, I've got a lot of friends and a lot of military members and or first responders at this point that we can connect you with if you need anything. Otherwise, we'll see you in the next video. Take care.